Rach, let's approach the elephant in the room. We have moved spaces. We are in different premises. Thank you to producer Finn, who's been astronomical in the rise of getting this incredible premium space. I feel like there's an orange glow. You've got a tan. We've got this beautiful
That's because of Finn as well. Yeah,
we've got these gorgeous lattes that we've had this morning. It's been it's been quite the welcome back.
It has, and we've given Finn all of the credit for this brand new building, this brand new studio. Yes. Everything's good. The lighting's good. The desks, the mics, the headphones. Maybe we sound better. I don't know.
Well, there's a reason for that, and it's because producer Finn is now in the studio with us, whereas before we were recording in a separate booth and Finn was a little bit further away. So now we have him
watching us
about 10 feet away. Yeah. So yeah, that's good for us.
We can't have a cheeky underhanded comment anymore.
No, we can't, but we can have a cheeky wink. Nice. How's your holiday been? You look well. You look glowing. You've showed me a watch tan.
Like I have proof. Yeah, I always have to. When you look like me and you're Irish, you have to wear something that proves that you've gone slightly less pale.
Well, we look like sisters now. It's nice.
Oh, yeah, that's it. People want to be able to tell us apart, though.
Just the accent that keeps us apart, really.
Well, your Irish accent, has it come along at all, or is it still shite?
Not at all.
No. Okay.
Yeah.
I had a lovely holiday, thanks. I was in Tuscany. It was wonderful. I drank all the wine.
No, I saw the really cute photos of you and Soph, like out in the town, like gorgeous settings, like loads of like culture and things. Meanwhile, I was here broken, crawling on my arse to the end of the Euros, taking a small break and straight into the Women's Rugby World Cup.
Tell you what, the Euros was full on, wasn't it?
It was intense.
And the good thing is we have the minimum amount of gap between the Euros and the season starting. It needs to be a minimum of 6 weeks. It is absolutely bang on 6 weeks.
I agree. I think only because we've got this gorgeous women's summer of sport, we're now into the Rugby World Cup. The Red Roses did really well against the USA, completely dominating performance, but everyone's like stuck into that now. It felt like there was a brief moment, you had the parade, you had all this like escalation and 65,000 people. There was about a week worth of like major coverage, and then it's kind of tailored off. And to me, I wanted a parade every week to celebrate what happened.
That's a lot to ask. The other thing I noticed about the rugby, which is slightly different, is that it's every weekend. So you have like a whole gap where you're like, oh.
You can breathe though.
I don't know. I like it all the time.
Are you going to any of the games?
I'm going to try. I'm going to see if I can get some tickets, if it works out with weekends and football matches and whatnot. I'm definitely going to try.
I think it's actually the overlap between Women's Rugby World Cup and the WSL. Not great. But let's get stuck into the WSL. We're obviously, a couple of weeks away now? 10 days away? Something crazy like that. It feels like it's come around so super, super fast. And I think over the summer, obviously we had the big Euro stories. Now we're straight into the transfer deals that have been taking place. I mean, big news. Olivia Smith, 20 years old, only turned professional in 2023. Now, July, Olivia Smith signs for Arsenal. World record transfer, £1 million going into the Liverpool coffers. I mean, what was your thoughts when you first saw this news?
Probably not surprised that she'd left Liverpool. I remember us talking about this at the end of the season as to whether we thought she should stick around for another season. I think both of us maybe thought she should, just to kind of bed into the WSL a little bit more. But equally not hugely surprised that big clubs are coming in for her. A little bit surprised that it's the £1 million. Still very young, wonderful talent, wonderful young player. And I think it's very much an investment in the future and, knowing what she can do as she matures in the game. But yeah, I guess a little bit of a surprise.
You pay for the potential.
100%. When you just compare it to who the previous player was that broke the record, Naomi Girma. Very much an established, like one of the best defenders in the world. It's so interesting to see how quickly the game is skyrocketing. And, you look at Olivia Smith and you think, 2-3 years time, she's already unreal now. What's she going to be like then?
100%. But you think, Naomi Girma broke the record with Chelsea in January this year. £900,000 that was paid for her from San Diego Wave. And then you kind of look at this transfer now of £1 million to Olivia Smith. And I think obviously there's an element there of like the commercial gain. I mean, Olivia Smith just won PFA Young Player of the Year.
Arsenal claiming that.
Yes. Yeah, very quickly.
We are so proud of our player.
100%. I mean, they've done really well in terms of timing. Chloe Kelly picked her up in January and all of a sudden she scores the Euros winning goal. I mean, they're a PR coup.
But also, just think back to that. There must be some serious sliding doors moments in players' careers. And I remember when we were talking about the Chloe Kelly saga, what she was going through. Should she have said something publicly? Should she not? And actually, she saw her Euros potential slipping away and she needed to get game time. And even then, went to Arsenal, didn't necessarily get loads and loads and loads of game time. But my God, what a sliding doors moment to she's spoken about it as well, but post kind of matches and stuff, but like where she could have been and where she was.
Mm-hmm.
I just think it's amazing when you think players must look at things like that when they're in difficult times and think like, do I make the leap? Do I make the jump? And this could be a sliding doors moment for Olivia Smith where she said, should I have stayed at Liverpool or I've gone to Arsenal now? She could look back in 2 or 3 years' time and go, that was exactly the right decision.
I mean, I definitely think it's a sliding doors moment. I think, but it also depends on what Arsenal's ambitions are for Olivia Smith, whether she's going to be starting those games or whether she is going to be spending quite a lot of time on the bench. I mean, she was getting those regular starts with Liverpool, which is kind of, the progress that she was making there, 7 goals in 20 games, obviously winning the award as well. I mean, been a phenomenal season for her, but you almost wonder, like sort of Michele Agyemang and Arsenal, I was kind of expecting, and we'll get onto it a little bit later, but Michele going back to Arsenal, but then are Arsenal going to give us those opportunities to kind of build off that success? Brighton probably was the best move for her in terms of, staying there, building on the success that she already has, having those regular starts and growing in confidence. So I think it is that's like, do you go, you're a big fish, you're probably a medium-sized fish going into a very big pond. Are you going to grow with it or are you going to get a little bit lost? That's my only concern.
Yes, and I think, and that's the difficult decision for young players when they have these breakout seasons and you think, do I stay for that extra season to really build my confidence and firm up what I'm doing and be the big player in a team, or do I take that leap? And I'm excited to see how it goes. I think it could be really interesting. But we've talked a lot about, you look at the likes of Chelsea, serial winners, and one of their biggest strengths is their strength and depth. Mm-hmm. And I think that's something Arsenal are building more of. They've obviously got a very deep squad and talented squad, but I think that's another thing they're thinking of with bringing in an Olivia Smith. They're in all competitions. They want to go far in all competitions. We've seen
Champions League winners. My God.
Quite. And you can see with the likes of a Man City, when you get knocked with a couple of injuries, suddenly you have to rely on youngsters. And their youngsters did very, very well, don't get me wrong. But suddenly you're putting them into these really big matches and not expecting, but you're trying to get through the quarterfinals of the Champions League, for example. So I'm guessing that's kind of one eye on depth for Arsenal and competing on all fronts very well and long into competitions.
I think it's that the expectation on Arsenal feels higher than it ever has before. Obviously, you have the Champions League win, but at the same time, with the quality, and we keep saying this, the quality and depth of the Arsenal squad now, you're expecting them to be serious title contenders, go really far, if not win the FA Cup. I mean, I keep calling it the Conti Cup, the Subway League Cup,
the BLT,
the Sub Cup. The big
Barclays League trophy
title
BLT,
thing, yeah. All of those you're expecting them to do, and also to obviously have to defend their Champions League crown next year. I think you are going to need that depth there. So obviously Smith is not going to be a bench sitter. She's not going to be sitting on the bench for large periods of time. But at the same point, you are thinking it's going to be a big year for you.
I'm still kind of surprised that Arsenal are the ones that broke that record. But, I would have thought Chelsea would have swooped in. We've seen in the past where Arsenal tend to flirt with players and show them a bit of ankle when they're coming to the end of their contracts.
About 70 players on their books.
Yeah, but Arsenal tend to wait until it's too late until they're free.
There's not enough space on the bench anymore. Chelsea's, it's saturated.
Do you think Chelsea were reaching on the back of the couch for a few bits of extra change to kind of up the... No, I would have thought that they were the ones who would break that record for her. It was because I just feel like sometimes Arsenal could be a bit inconsistent with their transfers. I'm sure Arsenal fans will come for me, but when we look back at getting players for free and whatever, which is great, but sometimes you think of the players they didn't get because they weren't willing to stump up the cash before their contract ran out and stuff like that. So the fact that they've gone all in now for Olivia Smith is quite a sign.
Well, Smith is very, very happy about the deal. She said, it's a privilege and an honour to sign for Arsenal. It's my dream to compete for the biggest titles here in England and in Europe, and I'm excited to get started and contribute to doing that here with Arsenal. Renee Slager said, she's an exciting young player. Yeah, of course. Who can make a big contribution. So maybe Sluggers has some big plans.
I'm sure.
Involved for Olivia Smith, but we will wait and see what happens there. Michele Agyemang, we've got to talk about her. I think obviously given the success that she had in basically saving the Lionesses from the clutches of death throughout the tournament, kind of expected that Arsenal would be like, okay, great, you've done amazing stuff at Brighton, you've absolutely been the hero of the tournament, everyone loves you, come back to mum, come back to your parents, come on, off your trot. You had a good time at Brighton, you had a good time at nursery, but we're all coming back to the
Brighton fans will not appreciate
they
that.
will not appreciate that. I already knew from the minute I said nursery that was gonna kick off. But for me, I don't have a Twitter account, so don't come at me.
Don't come at me though. You don't need to tell me that you're annoyed at Chloe. If she doesn't have a Twitter account, find her on Instagram.
Channel all of your complaints and concerns to
Upfront.
at Girls on the Ball. Michele Agyemang has obviously been sent back on loan to Brighton. That did raise a couple of eyebrows there. I mean, what were your thoughts on that? I've kind of given a bit of a thought about where I stand on
I think it's the right move. I think and to be honest, I would have liked to have seen her somewhere where she would have been the out and out number 9. You know, I know she did well at Brighton, but I feel like I would have liked to have seen more of her at Brighton. And I just wonder if, you know, Leicester are crying out for a number 9. Maybe you don't want to go down to Leicester. Maybe there's concern about how they're going to do this season. But imagine being the star number 9. I think she'd really benefit from that. And like the grit and the fight you'd have to put in at a team like a Leicester, for example. But I'm glad she's gone back out on loan. I think she deserves more minutes in the WSL, and that's only going to benefit Arsenal. It's another example of kind of investing in a player's future and what they will ultimately bring to the squad.
100%. I think 100%.
Are you okay?
No, I don't know whether I am. So it's the first pod back. Like, I've got to get all these teething problems out.
Do you know what I was really impressed with? You did the full intro in one take.
I was gonna say that at the end. I was gonna say that after we came. I was like, I wasn't expecting that. If I'm honest, that never happens. But yeah, I do think they've made the right choice. It feels like a bit of a head and a heart type thing. Like your heart is saying, okay, well, like give her this opportunity to kind of like come back into the squad and like start competing on a, you know, serious level with some big dog contenders. But at the same time, your head's going, okay, well, like she's still a super young player. Let's not, just because of the Euro success, like rush through her progress. She still needs to learn, you know, loads of game management, confidence. I mean, and obviously she has a lot of that already, but like, let's not rush her progress. I don't like clubs thinking that they've, I don't know, found something and then all of a sudden it's going to like they're going to go into a different era. And I take it slow. Take it slow with the youngsters. They've still got a lot to learn and to mature as people as well.
Yeah, and I appreciate that she would be training with a top squad, for example, but how is sitting on a bench for much of the season going to benefit her growth? And actually playing in a squad where she's more likely to get minutes is just, again, going to reap rewards.
I think fans would have been more disappointed had she gone back to Arsenal and spent more time on the bench, or only been called out for like the sub cup moments or the sort of like those
97th minute winners or whatever it might be.
Yeah, and I think like Arsenal fans would have been more frustrated to only see like a Euros winner being used in that way than we're going to see her pretty much week in, week out at Brighton and continue to develop around some like a really strong squad. I mean, Brighton were doing absolute business last year. So I think, yeah, for me, it feels like the best option. And I think, like you said, Rach, when you look at kind of Arsenal's full forward options, you know, Beth Mead, Chloe Kelly, now Olivia Smith, Caitlin Ford, Alessia Russo, Stina Blasinius, Vivian Lear, and you think, Christ, like where is she gonna naturally fit into all of that chaos up front? So yeah, I think I'm looking forward to seeing her just progress and grow and do it at a rate that's like comfortable and natural for her. I mean, it was obviously a great environment for her to learn, and she did it so well with Brighton last year. Let's see a little bit more of that before she comes back.
And it says a lot as well about her that she's so young and still in the WSL. You know, it's not a case perhaps, which is understandable as well, that you might go to a WSL 2. God, it's going to take a lot of practice, and to not say championship, but to get minutes down there. So the fact is she'll still be competing, really high level competition. You're nurturing that growth, right? And then you're going to bring her back and she's going to be even more well-rounded, which 100%. Who knew was possible.
And also she seems so happy about it as well. Yeah. Like the announcement post from her, she was like all full of like praise for like the decision and kind of staying with the club and seeing that through. So yeah, I think all round, happy doors for me. Coming up after this, we discuss a huge summer for London City Lionesses. My gosh, this club making waves in the WSL and not a single game played yet. London City Lionesses completely shaking things up. They're obviously gearing up for their first ever season in the WSL, and they have been spending big this summer, which isn't surprising given the huge backing that they have from Michele Kang, her very deep pockets, and the rest of the Kineska squad. They've signed 12 players and they're absolutely not done yet. Last week, their manager, Jocelyn Pritchard, has confirmed they are keen to sign Beth Mead. The rumour mill's obviously been in full swing. Rach, you've got a wry smile on. It tells me that you want to say something quite spicy. So
it's not that.
Please drop a bomb.
I just feel like saying you want to sign big players, like you could say that about any player.
For sure.
Makes you sound great. Like, I mean,
Brighton want to sign Alessia Russo.
I'm sure Leicester would love to sign Beth Mead as well. I'm sure every Liverpool would love to sign Beth Mead. I do think there might be an element of saying, like, I just find it unusual to come out and say, we really want to sign this player.
Well, they have reportedly made a formal offer.
I'm sure they have.
I mean, I wonder what the offer looks like.
Me too.
I'd love to know.
Do you know what? You'll never know because we never get 100% confirmation of what a fee is. It's always like reports say that it's it. The club have yet to confirm. We're not going to tell you how many years contract they have. We're not going to tell you how much they cost. It's just like, just friggin' tell us.
Can you imagine it? Arsenal go absolutely big dog offer, £1 million breaking the bank for Olivia Smith, and London City go, do you know what, 2 million for Beth Mead.
Oh my God.
It's pennies. It's pennies to Michelle. It's pennies to her.
Could you imagine?
I mean, I'd go for it. If you were Beth Mead and you were thinking the salary is going to be absolutely insane, you've got a real chance here to make this really impactful kind of, this is the first opportunity that we're seeing for a club that's not affiliated to a men's team, that is completely untethered to kind of the constraints that a Premier League outfit is going to have. You can literally do what you want, kind of write as many checks as you want within the constraints of some kind of vague financial constrictions that you can kind of get around because you're a big dog owner with multi-club ownership, which we'll kind of get stuck into a little bit in a second. But I mean, she's been doing business. I mean, how impressed have you been with Michele Kang so far?
Yeah, I mean, absolute statements of intent. I think we were touching on this before we came on about how difficult it is to get into the WSL and to stay in the WSL. And, every club says when they come up, we're not just coming up to try and stay up, we want to compete. And that's not always backed by perhaps the signings or the ambition from the club itself. Yeah. Whereas I feel like the investment and the ambitions are clear. Yes, they've gone big, but I don't feel like they've gone crazy big.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? They've gone for youngsters and they've gone for experienced
Definitely
players.
Experience.
And I think maybe not what's missing necessarily, but maybe what's missing a little bit is those players in the middle who are at their absolute prime.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean? So I think it's going to be really interesting. Very confident teams. I've had a chat with some London City Lionesses players at their media day. Super confident. Everyone's really bought into the vision. They've talked about the facilities they're creating. They want them to be absolutely world class. And that's what I like. Like, it's not just to throw money at players. We've talked about this. Mm-hmm. You've got clubs who will be putting money into, their training facilities, their pitches, brilliant, but you don't necessarily see that on the pitch. Sometimes you see it on the pitch, but behind the scenes isn't matching up. And I do think what they're trying to do at London City Lionesses is build both. And it is a journey. And obviously the sales pitch is very good because you're seeing an awful lot of experienced players say, yeah, I want to come on this ride.
100%. And I think even when you kind of look at the commercial value of London City Lionesses and kind of them having this, they're untethered to a Premier League squad and the freedom that it gives them just in terms of, we've just seen the London City Lionesses night kit drop.
It's interesting.
Thoughts?
It's interesting.
I was expecting something a bit more dynamic, I think. Yeah, obviously it's very colourful. It's very different. It doesn't sort of adhere to kind of any colourways that we've seen in the current WSL, which is good because we want something a bit spicier. But at the same time, it did feel, one of the logos, the Nike logos were completely different on the kits. The photo shoot that they produced with the players was, I think they could have done a little bit better with that. I think it didn't necessarily scream as premium as I would have liked to have seen. But at the same time, I think there is this real opportunity to kind of get around the club and kind of see what they can do and how they approach business and kind of how they shape their commercial partnerships and their advertising, their marketing, when it is just that they're doing it all themselves with a completely blank slate.
Yeah, and look, I've all said it for years how we don't want the women's game to go down the same path as the men's game. We talk about teams over-relying on their men's teams. Then when the men's team gets into trouble, the women's team suffers. And we want different ways of doing things. We look at the NWSL and how it's completely different. And, I think we're very quick to criticise and to judge things that haven't fully played out. And, I'll probably have egg on my face when things maybe go tits up. I hope they don't. But it's the same with like the whole WPLL stuff at the beginning. I was willing to give the benefit of the doubt. I didn't want to assume things were going to happen or assume people were going to act a certain way. And I'm a little bit like maybe on the fence. I want to see how the London City Lionesses situation plays out. I want it to be successful because it's another way of doing things in women's football that doesn't solely rely on the men's game. And is everything perfect? Absolutely not. But I'm intrigued, if we put it that way.
I think it's that. I think there is this element of risk that comes with a club like this. And like, whilst we're sort of giving it, big beans that we want it to be different, like there's an opportunity there to kind of go to this like NWSL model where you kind of have the freedom and creativity. But at the same time, you still got to be profitable at some point. No one's expecting that, I think, in the first few years. For sure. But I think getting bums on seats, you also got to generate that fan base, and you already have quite established clubs in the WS, especially for London-based clubs. When you look at Arsenal's fan base, you look at Chelsea's fan base, like they're so dominant, and you kind of need to get new fans into London City, which is going to be absolutely killer. Obviously, they've done amazingly in terms of the transfer window with, Aslani, you've got Nikita Parris, you've got Taya Goldie, Freya Godfrey, DVD. You've got these big names who are going to pull. And like a lot of the research that we did when I first started at SAB was around, is there loyalty to players or is there loyalty to clubs? And the vast majority of the women's football fan base, the loyalty does lie with players, which is good for them. And they have made some good signings in that respect. But you have to be profitable, and I am struggling to see kind of like how they're going to achieve, because it's going to be trying to get fans, it's going to be trying to get people down to the spaces, it's going to be getting like buying kits, things like that. But at the moment, I think there is going to be that struggle with the wages are going to be quite high if you're paying for a DVD, Nikita Parris, Aslani. Like the wages are not going to be insignificant. But
I agree, but that risk lies solely essentially on Michele Kang, right?
Sure.
And when we look at the men's game and we look at, a men's club who's not willing to invest more in their women's team when they absolutely have the money to do it. Mm-hmm. And you're like, why aren't you investing more? Like, and if things don't go well, it's not going to be a massive loss to your budget, is it? Like realistically. And they're still not willing to invest. London City Lionesses have someone who is willing to invest, knowing full well it's a risk. And I read an article where she spoke a little bit about, Silicon Valley, and it's like investing in these startups. And, if you get one home run out of 10 investments, you're doing well. And,
mm-hmm.
I think, so she fully recognizes that there is a big risk there. And I do think that's one of the concerns when it relies on one person's investment, that if it goes belly up, they pull out. Like, and we've seen that with clubs, that have had a single investor and they struggle financially, and then the club suffers. You look at maybe like an Angel City who's got a multi-pronged investing platform, like there's a whole load of people investing in it. Maybe that's a little bit of a safer route, because if one person pulls out, you're not completely unstable. So yeah, it's a very interesting when you've got someone willing to essentially pour their money into. But I think the reason she's willing to pour her money into it is she recognises the value and the worth of women's sport and women's football in general. And we need more people willing to invest in women's sport and recognising the value in it.
100%. And I think it does feel like she's obviously a very genuine, authentic investor. I mean, we saw something different when we had the Coventry situation, where we had that kind of like that tech guy who no one really knew who it was, but he invested in the club, then pulled it last minute, left a load of players without jobs just before Christmas. That was crazy. It doesn't feel like the same bag. Like Michele Kang's not just going to suddenly pull her investment when London City don't win the title in a couple of seasons time. But it is interesting to see kind of what that model looks like, because I think it will act as a bit of a, inspiration, I suppose, to other people, like, your Mercury 13s, your other, abroad, international investors who might be looking at this and saying, okay, well, if Michele Kang can do it with London City Lionesses, there's another way that we can do this with a Nottingham Forest who are coming up, or another club.
And I fully get the issues around it, and like people have plenty to say about Michele Kang. I'm not saying she's perfect or amazing. I'm not like, I'm intrigued to see how it's going to go. I think the multi-club ownership could be an issue, and I think multi-club ownership is something that federations, UEFA's, like a UEFA or a whatever, needs to look at. And if there are loopholes that are being exploited, they need to close those loopholes. And if it's going to cause, we're seeing it in the men's game where teams are getting relegated and brought up and down because of multi-club ownership, and it's not really that transparent, and it's not really being implemented fairly across the board. It's kind of being tweaked and nudged to kind of suit whoever's being affected by it. So I do think the multi-club ownership conversation needs to be had. And I do think, I was reading an article in RTE, which is our equivalent of like the BBC basically in Ireland. And one of the things they were talking about within that article was what could be done to protect the game when it comes to multi-club ownership. And some of their suggestions, for example, were a 3-club cap per ownership group, 1 club per ownership group per UEFA competition tier, clear definitions of control, transparency in transfers, and independent oversight. Because it can get murky when it comes to maybe inflating worth of players and selling them internally, and all that kind of stuff can get a bit murky. But we're not there yet.
Well, I think we obviously don't have the women's game doesn't have the independent financial regulator that the men's game now does, and I think it'll be really super interesting. I mean, a lot of the men's game, what we've seen from the Chelsea fines, the Man City fines, and kind of the penalties that have been imposed on those clubs, is that we're yet to see a situation in which like the women's game will be subject to that, because obviously it doesn't, the financial sort of rules and regulations don't exist yet.
Yeah.
So like, no one's technically broken anything.
But it's interesting when you see clubs sell their women's team essentially to themselves to avoid the financial fair play and all that kind of, Aston Villa have done it, Chelsea have done it.
It's creative accountancy.
And this is what I was saying to you beforehand, though. If loopholes or whatever it might be are being exploited, close the loopholes. Talk to the people who are responsible for the structure and what's in place to protect the integrity of the game. They need to be looking at that as well. But it's interesting to see the various ways that people are doing things. And look, if your women's team is a separate entity and what Chelsea are doing, they're able to get in sponsorship, etc., specific for their women's team. So that money's coming directly to their women's team rather than it going into the main pot, and then you're kind of spreading it out that way. So all interesting things to watch and see how they unfold.
Does Michele Kang prompt or trigger a need for independent financial regulation in the women's game? We will wait and see. Obviously, Van der Donk is the only London City signing made this summer for one of Kang's network clubs, which kind of does create that kind of iffy situation in which you can kind of buy and move players around and kind of, change values and things to kind of suit the different financial structures within the clubs, which will be interesting. It's a wait and see moment.
It is. Something I was going to ask you, actually. We've had a great question in from Pamlar. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. How do you feel about how seemingly few of their players who got them promoted will be competing in the WSL? And I think this is a really interesting one because you've that balance of a very clearly ambitious owner. They've all spoken about not wanting to just go up and hope to stay up. They very much want to challenge. And we know how difficult it is coming up from the Championship /WSL2 up to the WSL. But equally, all that graft and hard work that went in from the players to get them there, it must be quite an interesting dynamic when that happens. I know you've experienced that.
I think, when we moved up from the Championship, and bearing in mind this was like 4 or 5 years ago now with Spurs, we went from a very much a family setting and it became a business overnight. Results became the absolute ride or die for the managers. It was Juan Amoroso and Karen Hills at the time. And I think it was really tough because a lot of the players who had kind of got you into the position where you were going out to the WSL, and at that time we'd made history for Spurs. So we had this moment where it was one of the second from last game of the season, Aston Villa. We all celebrated like we'd won the World Cup. It was crazy because we'd done this
and rightly
really
so
historic thing. It was absolutely wild. And then like you have this moment of like 2 days of like celebrating, and then all of a sudden the reality kicks in that you don't know whether you're going to see a contract. You don't know whether you're going to be making it professional. You have absolutely no idea if your position's safe anymore. And I think it really does fill you with a sense of dread that you won't be a part of the continuing history. And also there's a kind of like a frustration when you're not. Like when we went from Spurs in the Championship to WSL, 12 players from the previous squad got contracts and 12 players didn't. And those players had been integral. Like it wasn't just the starting 11 that had got us into. We had all played a part in it. So to say goodbye to those people, and those people were they were angry, and rightly so. I would have been had I not been fortunate enough to get a spot. But it does create a really interesting dynamic in the change room where you've got 12 new players who are coming in. You know that you're fighting for their position. Chances are they're probably a little bit better than you because they've been brought in to kind of bolster the squad. I was competing, so I was pretty much playing every single game, day in, day out for Spurs in that Championship game was a big part of like the Championship success, as everyone was. And then all of a sudden, Becky Spencer comes in and I'm like, oh, for fuck's sake, really? Fucking really? Like, can you not just give me a go? Like, can you not just like see what I can, like, can you not just give me the chance in the WSL to see what I can do? If I fluff every game and like I'm letting in goals left, right and centre, like, yeah, give Becky a chance. But Becky started pretty much straight away, and that was super tough, like personally to take, because I was like, you've not even given me that chance to really see what I can do and like see how much progress I can make in the preseason. So it is really tough when you see. Yeah, it's just a different dynamic in the change room. You've got to get used to 12 new faces, and you don't necessarily. There is a little bit of tension, I think. So it's going to be tough to see how they navigate that. But you have to also appreciate that results are key, and if it is the best thing for the squad, then you have to.
Business, isn't it?
Yeah, you have to like put yourself aside, and that's really difficult to do.
Where you draw the line between or how you manage that line between recognizing a player's value to a squad and then recognizing the ambitions of the club and what they expect of you, and as well how few games are in the WSL to allow you to even find your feet, and that gap, then you get a couple of bad runs in the first few games. It's yeah.
There's no room for sentimentality in the WSL. It is results, it is business, it is money essentially now. So you kind of, I understand it now now that I've taken a step back, now that I'm 5 years away from it, but when you're
living it's hard.
And also it's your full time at the time, like obviously I'd given up law for this as well, so I'd given up law to sit on the bench essentially and just like wait for a chance,
bench,
like a Conti
the wrong
Cup
bench.
Yeah, not in the RCJ anymore, Chloe. Definitely not.
Hold up.
Yeah. But yeah, it was definitely tough. So I thoughts of with those players who've done the business to get them there, but they will be taking a back seat. But your place in the squad is no less valuable, and you will always be remembered in history for doing that for the squad. And I think that's the thing that I've always taken away from that.
Yeah, and I think it's a bit like London City Lionesses. Generally, everyone talks about them as if they only existed when Michele Kang came around, and they didn't. They were there before. They, and they needed to be there in order for there to be a business worth investing in. So you kind of can't forget where you came from.
100%. Just, it's your place. No one can rewrite you from the history books. Coming up after this, the WSL2 prepares for a new era. So, some big changes ahead in the WSL2 / Championship. We can't forget that. The season 2 teams will be automatically promoted from the Championship / WSL2. And the third place team will have a playoff against the team that finishes last in the WSL. These 2 automatic spots are only on offer for this season. Because
one season and one season only.
Take your chance, because the WSL is expanding from 12 to 14 teams for the 2026-27 season. By that time, the WSL2 will then just have one automatic spot and one playoff spot. So this season is a massive opportunity for Leicester to stay in.
I love
the
how we've
WSL.
just picked Leicester. Leicester fans are going to be raging. You're going to have them all after us. I think this is a really, like we always talk about the WSL2. Our listeners are going to get really irritated with us, but I'm finding it really hard to say it because I was there when the WSL2 existed and then they scrapped it. Now they've brought it back again. I think they should have just kept hold of that marketing gear and just like wheeled it back out again.
It could have been vintage.
It would have been better.
It would have been probably nicer than the branding they currently have.
Anyway, the point is, it's almost like not quite a free hit, but if you're going to invest and get yourselves up to the WSL, you've essentially got 3 chances, which is rare, and like it's not going to. And we've talked about the bottleneck that WSL2 has been in the past, and how you'll have multiple clubs really going, right, we're going to go for that one spot, and there is only one spot. So the fact that there's now 3 opportunities, equally, it's a little bit of a safety net for the WSL, for your London City Lionesses, for example, their first season in the league. They've a bit of a safety
Palace
net.
were like, oh God, if we just hung on.
If we just
hung on for one more year.
Because essentially everyone's assuming that whoever comes bottom will beat whoever comes third in the WSL2.
That'll
which
be a
I think
great game to watch.
It will, but
I
also think
WSL Championship playoff is a great game. I can't wait for it already.
Some people are a bit like, well, this is basically no relegation. They've just dressed it up. But, I also think like a single game, a one-off, anything could happen. Obviously, the favourites will be whoever come bottom of the WSL 1 when they come up against third place WSL 2. But you never know. If it's a super competitive WSL 2, anything could happen.
Well, I think that's the thing, isn't it? I do think it is a super competitive women's championship. Like we saw how close to the wire it came on the last day last year. And I think the teams, obviously, and we'll get into sort of the transfers and things that have been made, but like some of the championship squads, I think would give the likes of the bottom of the WSL a good run for their money. And I think there is that underdog mentality that I don't think you can take away from squads when they're in a position to, it's a fight. It is a 100% fight. It's like a Euros final. Like it could go either way based on a moment. And I think that I quite like the jeopardy of, like 100%.
And we've seen in the past, 3-4 weeks from the end of the WSL2 when it was the championship, you still had 4, 5, 6 teams who realistically could have won it. Imagine as we come into the last kind of month of the WSL2, there could still be that amount of teams that could reasonably
a point apart
could be getting 1, 2 or 3 spots. So there's going to be, already an exciting league, but I just feel like the last kind of run in is going to be insane because you're going to have potentially quite a few teams who could get one of those spots, and it's just going to be very, very spicy.
And I think you have to put into context like how these teams are coming to the table for that playoff game. You've got a championship team will have been winning the majority of their games to be in that third spot, and you will have a WSL team that's lost the majority of their games to get into that relegation spot. So you're coming at it from a place of confidence and no confidence in the wrong way.
Yeah, and it could be a case of like a WSL team who's ended up at the bottom. They've struggled with injuries, players have been out, they've found themselves like unable to pick up points where it's really mattered. Conversely, you've got a team who's probably managed to stay pretty fit throughout because they've managed to get themselves to that third spot. Like, there's just so many things at play for a single game that, I just think, I just wouldn't assume that how that game is going to go personally.
To assume makes an arse of you and me.
You said it.
Thank you. That isn't my quote. I won't take credit for that one.
But we won't credit Einstein either. I don't think it was him, but that's another name you can't pronounce, along with Friedlin Rolfo.
Yeah, this is a great first pod. All 12 teams in the WSL2 are now completely full-time for the first time ever this year, which also adds an additional element to the fact that these players are going to be given the right resources, the right time to kind of really hone in and focus on just one thing, which is football, which is amazing. But that also kind of adds to the drama that could be created with this playoff position. Let's get stuck into a question from Kez on Instagram. She said, or he, I don't know, yeah, or they.
Kez. Well, there's a movie, Kez, about a bird. Is Kez a bird?
Kestrel.
Yeah, Kez. Maybe it's a bird.
We've lost the plot. Who do you think has made the most meaningful investment to come up into the WSL by the end of the season? We've obviously had Jordan Nobbs, released by Aston Villa, signed for Newcastle. Two-time World Cup winner Morgan Goutra has also just joined Newcastle on loan until the end of the season. Rio Hardy swapped Rangers for Bristol City. Rach, who do you think has been doing some transfer tracker business?
There is a lot of movings and shakings in WSL2. I think the ones that have caught my eye the most is probably Newcastle United and Nottingham Forest.
Not Bristol City.
Bristol City as well, for sure. But I think them two, I've been quite surprised at, particularly Nottingham Forest. It feels like Nottingham Forest have gotten in and gone, we're going for it. We are going for it. There are 3 potential spots, definitely 2, to get into the WSL. We're going for it. And I've been super impressed because Nottingham Forest have just come up. That's what I've been so impressed with. And some of the calibre of players that they've gotten, Deanne Rose, Rachel Rowe, Chani Boyle Lorca, Amy Smith. Chloe Mustaki, Amy Rogers from Bristol. And then, you look at Bristol, they've had to replace a few key players as well. But there's just been a lot. When you look at this transfer tracker, please check out Girls in the Ball transfer tracker.
That has been a saving grace of me, this pod, to keep up to date with the WSL2 stuff.
Sophie, unbelievable. That's all Sophie's work. There's just been a lot. What I've been kind of surprised at is the outgoings at Birmingham.
Okay.
Versus the incomings. And I'm just surprised because Birmingham
That's a long list.
They were the ones, right up at the top with London City Lionesses down to the final day.
That was a great game.
It was. 9,000 people turned up for that. Imagine now, there could be at least 3 games where you've got that kind of you could go up, you could. It's
100%.
Amazing. But I've just been quite surprised at their outgoings. And they're going to need to do some business, I think, if they're going to be challenging again.
I'm trying to literally count. 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. I'm counting 14, 15 outbound from Birmingham City with only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 coming in. That's a completely different squad. It's going to be very interesting to see how they get on this year. I think
Sunderland have signed half the Irish squad. I'm delighted about. Go up there, I feel right at home.
Is that going to be your second team this year? Nice. I would say Bristol City for me have done absolutely business. I think it's been really lovely to see Charlotte Healy, obviously coming over from being the right-hand man of Mark Skinner previously at Manchester United. She has been, and I've had a couple of conversations with Charlotte, absolutely amazing, great tactics, and I think it's good to see her getting this opportunity to kind of manage the team, already doing massive business in the transfer window. You've got Sophie Ingle from Chelsea, Vicky Losada, Esther Morgan from Sheffield United, Gemma Lawley. These are all kind of a bit of a mixture of kind of, again, like what you're saying,
Vera
kind of
Jones, a youngster in on loan.
Experience and also youth. And I think Bristol City have this history, don't they, of going up into the WSL, going back down to the Championship. And I feel like this is a great opportunity. I'd be surprised if we didn't see Bristol City in one of those 2-3 in one of those 3 spots for this season.
Yeah.
What do you think for this season? If you were going to call 3 spots, I won't even say 1, 2 or 3. I'll just say 3 altogether. Who would you say is going to be sitting in that?
Newcastle.
Nice.
Bristol.
Yep.
The third one I find is tricky, and I feel like the third one might be one of those where there's 3 or 4 teams vying for it.
Yeah, it's like a Champions League spot now.
Yeah, well, honestly, good. It's great to have another thing to fight for. You don't want to write off the likes of your Sunderlands and your Durhams. They could definitely be up there, and I think that's what's been really interesting about the Championship the last couple of years is the fact you've had 5 or 6 teams pushing right to the very end. There was one year where there was 8 teams that mathematically could have won the league with about 4 weeks, 5 weeks to go. So that's the one that I'm really struggling to pick. Maybe I'll just go for a Sunderland and use my Irish
flagpole in the sand.
I'm going to put my Irish flagpole in the sand. I'm going to go Sunderland. I think Notts are going to push and be a real surprise in their first league, and it'd be incredible if they got one of those 3 spots. And maybe I'm going to go Irish and go Sunderland.
I'm going to say Bristol City.
Yeah.
I'm going to say Newcastle, and I'm going to say Birmingham.
Sure.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a transitional season for them, but I do think there's a lot of success for them to build on this year. Thank you so much for listening to Upfront. Absolutely amazing to be back with you, Rage, and also in this beautiful new studio.
So nice.
With your lovely Everyone Watches the Lionesses
I
t-shirt
won't wear this
on.
every week.
No, I think you can. I think I need to get better at my t-shirt game. It's a plain white t-shirt. It now smells a little bit because I cycled in, which is a really
I
bad,
know, I'm sat next to you.
really bad thing to do.
It's actually probably just as well we're not in a booth.
Yeah, I think it would have been quite intense, dense in there. We'll be back next Tuesday with our WSL preview, which we are recording slightly early, this Friday, in fact. So please get your questions in before then. We've had so many already, so thank you to everyone who has sent one in. We're going to try and answer as many as possible.